Welcome to the Millcreek Government Channel. I'm Judy Zelina. And when we think of the Humane Society, we immediately think of a place we can go to adopt a pet or where we would take a lost cat or dog. And yes, the Humane Society does provide these services, but there is so much more to our local Humane Society, more services than just that they provide. And to tell us about their wonderful organization, we have joining us today the Executive Director, Joe Grisanti.
Hello, and thank you.
And also we have the Business Manager of the Humane Society, Alicia Pace.
Hello.
It is so good to have you two on board, and I really enjoyed talking to you before
Thanks
the
again,
program.
likewise.
And just, getting some of my facts straight, and that's what we're here to do today, viewers. First off, our viewers, we know the Humane Society is here in town. A lot of us may think it's still in its old location. So where are you located?
You know, we are ourselves amazed at how often still, after 10 years, a few folks still think that we're across the street
They keep going to the zoo. Of course they do.
That's right. In fact, we're located at 2407 Zimmerly Road, just west of I-79 on Interchange Road. In other words, instead of going to the mall, you go the other way on Interchange Road, and you'll find us there.
In fact, there's a light.
Yeah.
It's right where the light is on Interchange Road.
Yes, and PennDOT has placed a sign there to indicate that the Humane Society is there. We've been there for 10 years, since 2004, and the location and the facility has just served us marvelously.
And what are your hours of operation for the public?
Alicia?
Well, we are open to the public 6 days a week. We obviously are present in the shelter every day of the week, but we're open 6 days a week except for Sundays, which we're closed. The hours vary day to day, but if you come into the shelter anytime between the hours of 12 and 4, those are our core hours. Some days we're in as early as 11 for the public, and usually on Wednesdays is our late day. We're open till 6 p.m. on that day.
Okay. And how long has the Humane Society here in Erie County been around?
The exact history is a little murky, but we know that we are the oldest Humane Society in the state of Pennsylvania, and maybe the oldest or one of the oldest in the nation. Our history reaches back to 1892, at the very origin of the movement.
And your correct title is Humane Society of Northwest Pennsylvania.
Northwestern Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. So you serve a large area.
In fact, in our business, there really are no geographic boundaries that we must adhere to. We are the enforcers of cruelty law for the state of Pennsylvania within Erie County. So that is one strict jurisdiction that we have. Our enforcement boundaries are Erie County for cruelty.
Well, you guys do a great job. You do a lot of things. How are you funded?
We depend on the Erie community for our funding. There is a great myth, a pervasive myth out there, that somehow the Humane Society of the United States or other animal organizations might be funding us. And in fact, this is not the case. We depend on donations from local residents. We do generate, a little over 20% of our budget from service fees, adoption and intake fees, and other associated fees. But, again, largely, we're supported by the Erie community. And those donations, for the most part, are coming to us in denominations of $10 and $25. They're from every man and woman in the community.
And also, do you work with the local townships like Summit and Millcreek? Do you have did you tell me that you have something with Millcreek and Summit?
We have a contractual arrangement with them too.
What does that
Well,
mean?
we accept all the stray cats and dogs,
Okay.
either via animal control or private citizens that live within both Millcreek and Summit townships to take in stray animals that are found. And what that basically means is we're not going to assess an additional fee to someone at intake time when they bring those animals into us. We also have, based on those contracts, a certain period of time that we hold those animals before we are before it's necessary for us then to place them up for adoption.
Okay.
And I just might add, even if we don't have specific arrangements with a given township, we do readily work with townships on a case-by-case basis, especially through our cruelty investigations unit. It's not unusual for us to get calls for assistance from state or municipal police, from the coroner's office, and other entities. The State Department of Agriculture calls upon us from time to time.
So what is your philosophy with regards to finding animals new homes? Well, you've got the adoption.
We know what it is, but how to encapsulate that easy is...
Well, you've got a criteria for adoption, which exactly what is it? I mean, can I just walk in off the street and say, oh, I want that cat?
No, our philosophy for adoption is to place these animals in secure, permanent homes. Now, the animals come to us from every direction, every type of setting or environment, some good, some bad, many in between. And we're fully committed to not repeat the mistakes of the community. In other words, not to return these animals to the type environments from which they come. And that can so easily be done. We have adoption criteria. They're simple, they're straightforward. Our requirements are few, and our emphasis is actually placed on the appropriateness of the match between person and animal. Children, for example, can be a primary consideration for us. The presence of children in the family and in the household. Is this given dog going to be compatible with young children? Or should we place some restrictions on this dog in terms of such an adoption? Things like this. And as a result, we're very successful at these sorts of placements. But we do sacrifice a little, let's say, in terms of public contentment, because some people do get aggravated at us because we must reject them. The only thing that we can hope is that in the end people understand that these rejections are for very good reasons, very noble reasons, and they're for the protection of the animals as well as the household residents themselves.
Okay. Alicia, I know if I would come in, there would be some questions that I would be asked. What would be some of the questions that that you would ask me?
Well, primarily, we're looking at demographics, for one thing. Since the idea is to place the animal in the best environment, not only for the new owner, but for the animal, we look at the personality of the animal, the lifestyle of the person interested in the animal, and try to do a good match that way. As you know, there are some animals that don't get along with other animals. There are some animals that are very intimidated by children. If the makeup of your home includes other animals and very small children, it might not be a good match. So we would expect that you would, consider another animal. So our questionnaire process allows us to gather information like that to determine that type of environment to start with. Then we get into more of the specifics of, how often are you home? Where are you going to keep this animal? How active are you? You don't want to get into things like age, but age oftentimes determines one's activity level as well. So we take those kinds of things into consideration, and we do that after we've already totally got ourselves in the know about each and every one of those animals, as to the best of our ability.
Because of course, just like a human, an individual, every animal has their own personality.
Absolutely.
And beyond that, many of these animals are coming from unfortunate situations where they have been neglected, abused, or just simply not cared for in a productive way. So the animals come to us, they're sometimes full of fear, intimidation, they're unused to encountering certain situations or certain people or numbers of people, and we've got to closely guard these animals from introducing them to environments which are going to, in fact, shock them.
Right.
The other part of this is the experience factor of people. Yes, some of these issues that an animal may suffer from may be corrected quite easily over time, but they require the knowledge and especially the commitment of people to deal with those things. And what we know from experience is that many people are well-intended. They want to deal with these things, but they may not have the combination of time and talent and commitment to do that.
Okay.
And through our adoption discussions, we try to ferret out some of this information, and they become topics of discussion. Are you indeed going to be able to help us, to become a partner with us, to help this animal to lead a productive and a good life going forward?
Well, I think that is so important when you're trying to find an animal a home. I know you really encourage interaction at the shelter with all family members.
Absolutely.
That has an interest in a pet.
Our philosophy, and I just read this someplace, that you always see these memes that they put out on the internet and everything with regards to animals, and one thing that I saw is someone said, "My dog is not a pet, my dog is family." And I believe that the approach that we take includes that. I mean, that's in the back of our minds all the time. If that animal, and I don't mean to just say dogs, I mean cats as well.
Correct.
If that dog is not going to be an integral part of your family, and of course I'm going to stress the fact that we prefer that these animals stay indoors for the majority of their life. Obviously, they need to spend some time outside. But if they're not family, if they're just going to be, relegated to a toy or a pastime or like an article of clothing even, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for something that is definitely more interactive and for the life of that pet.
Well, you also work with educating the family too, because we all know a pet, it requires a lot of work.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's not just something you can bring in the house, put an occasion, and forget about it. I mean, really, there's a lot of work and time involved.
Education is built into every component that we do. I mean, we're talking about the adoption questionnaire. Now, if I am counseling you on this given adoption, and you are not giving me, at least on the front, the responses that we require, that doesn't mean necessarily that we're not going to adopt this animal to you. Because through the conversation, we might enlighten you to certain information that you're not aware of, or help you to find your way to providing a good home for this animal. And we've seen situations turn around in conversation where we do say, yes, we are confident in providing this animal for you. You will take good care of it. You might not have sounded like that on the front end talking to us, but together we learn. We learn about each other. We learn about the potential situation that we might be placing this animal in.
Well, that's nice to know that even if I go in there and I don't really know diddly about owning a pet, but I think that this is something that I want, you can help me get to that point, correct?
Oh, correct. And we help you going forward, too. I mean, the process and the involvement with us does not stop when you walk out the door with a pet. We are always available for calls. We incorporate training techniques, or working with a behavioralist right now. Those types of things. Referrals to the best of our ability in terms of products and services that you might need for the pet. It doesn't stop, and we wouldn't expect anyone to think that they can't call us when they need something.
Every time I can make the opportunity, as I see an adopter going out the door with their new little buddy, I say, please, please call us if you have any problems. Give us the opportunity to help you to resolve, because we tell them very often these problems can be scary, but they're also very often easily resolved with just a little bit of time and a little bit of effort.
Okay. Now, I know you guys have some weekly spots, media spots on adopting pets. How is that? Does that generate a lot of interest in the Humane Society?
Certainly it does.
Oh, sure it does. We have the radio spots, of course. We work with Star 104 in that sense, Happy Radio. Happy takes it one step further, and they actually put a little YouTube video out every week of one of the pets, and they really love to do that. And then on Wednesday evenings, I do the Jet Pet spot on WJET. And the funny thing about that is, and I'm sure you could probably tell when you watch it, everybody at that studio gets so excited when you come in with a pet. And, you know, it's just like, I'm not the star, the animal's the star. And that makes me feel good because that's what it's about. So it starts there, and then hopefully, you know, all that joy filters out into the community, and then they call and they come in and see the pets.
And it does. I mean, it really does, because I have seen the spot. In fact, people have probably saw Alicia saying, okay, I know her. Where do I know her from? And you probably get stopped in
the grocery store.
No.
Yes, yeah.
Little kids, they look up at you, you know?
I have a question. Now, what is your process for the intake of animals?
Our philosophy for the intake of the animals is that we will take any animal that comes to us, except one exclusive situation are bite cases. By law, if your animal bites somebody, you must quarantine that animal. You must provide quarantine.
Okay.
We do not have the facilities or the ability to quarantine someone's animal for them. Other than that, we'll take any animal that comes to us. Our philosophy is we want people to be responsible to their animals, for their animals. They own them, they're responsible for them, they must provide great care. However, if there's any indication that the animal is not receiving care, or if needs us in any way, we take that animal in.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that there is, and I just want to clarify this. Say I find a dog wandering in the neighborhood, can't find the owner, yet you don't know who owns it, and I bring the dog to you. Am I going to pay a fee to bring this dog to you?
If it's a stray, and we
Well, it would be a stray, right.
If it is a stray, and we have a contract with the municipality, Millcreek or Summit Townships, we will ask for an intake, or we will not ask for an intake fee. Those municipalities will pay for it. If they come from another area of the county, we will ask for a donation.
Okay.
If the animal comes from the city of Erie, the Anna Shelter has a contract for stray management for the city of Erie.
Okay.
We will first attempt to direct those people to the Anna Shelter.
Okay, because they have a
However,
contract, right.
there are many cases where you just get the feeling that because they're frustrated, because they must get to work or whatever, that they indeed may not make it to the Anna Shelter. Or maybe they can't contact the Anna Shelter to get that animal in there. We'll take that animal because, again, our primary focus and interest is the care of those animals.
Okay.
And we cannot in good conscience allow an animal to be taken away from us to some undetermined outcome.
Okay. Now, I know we've talked about some of the services that you provide. What else do you provide, other services that you would provide at the Humane Society, Alicia?
Other than adoption and intake? We have, within our facility, prior to adoption, part of readying these animals involves a spay-neuter program.
Okay.
No animal leaves our shelter that is placed up for adoption that is not spayed or neutered first. We are not at a point where we can provide that service directly to the public. Hopefully someday that we can. So we do have that at least for our shelter pets. We have a retail store in our building which you can purchase products for your pets, everything but food, at a relatively low cost. You know, we undercut all the big box stores and things.
I didn't know that. I was so glad to talk with you today to know that you have that available.
Yeah, we do, and it's seasonal. We have seasonal products that come in there, and then just the basic things that you need. And a lot of the times when people come in, that also prompts a lot of community education,
okay.
Which again is another big thing, and we're hoping to expand on. We want to be able to work with individuals who need our assistance in educating them on appropriate pet care. So that is another one of our services. And then, of course, we do have 3 cruelty officers within our building. We handle, as Joe had mentioned, all types of animal cruelty investigations within Erie County. And that really has become a major part of what we do.
Okay. And Joe, tell us a little bit more about the Animal Cruelty Division. I know we've touched base a little bit about it.
But before I do my first,
Sure.
We've got a wonderful dog park behind the facility.
Okay.
There's a nominal $35 annual fee to utilize the dog park.
Oh, that's not bad.
It's a very large fenced-in area. It's a good place to let your dog run, but also to socialize with other animals. We have requirements for all animals must be vaccinated. They must be spayed and neutered, to minimize any problems that might occur. Alicia had already mentioned the retail store. We also provide private euthanasia and cremation for people. This is what a lot of people don't realize, and it is not only affordable, but there's very easy access. I mean, it is there when you need it. You call, you make an arrangement, you can get your animal up there. Most often, time is critical in these types of situations. And we perform these services with reverence and with respect and with cooperation of the family. And it's very important to many people.
Okay. Some of the fees that you were talking about that you may charge, like for the store, or any of the intake fees, I do want to stress to our viewers that stays local, correct?
Absolutely.
I mean, it stays right there to help the animals and keep it right here in Erie County, correct?
Yes.
I think that's important.
Absolutely, it is important.
There's so much involved with animal care and in animal sheltering environment, and you don't want to take anything for granted. And the fees that we collect, it goes right back into caring for the next animal that comes in the door. Okay. I mean, it doesn't stop right there.
Okay.
Let us return to cruelty services,
right.
Cruelty investigations for a few moments. People are very curious about cruelty investigations and what that environment is like.
What constitutes animal cruelty?
Well,
also?
Yeah, it's neglect, abuse, and abject cruelty. A lot of people, when they think of cruelty, they think of, beating the dog or dog fighting, things like this. Most often, it is the result of human dysfunction and the lack of care to those animals that results from human dysfunction. Cruelty is very often tied to issues of poverty, financial hardship, dysfunction in the household, mental illness and mental instability, and related issues. And often the ones who are paying the ultimate price, or a very heavy price in these situations, are the animals. All right. We are there to first identify these situations, to attempt to correct them in the field, and when that can't be accomplished, to seize the animals and take people into court, charge them with criminal animal abuse under Pennsylvania statute. The thing that I find people are most surprised at is the extent of cruelty and abuse and negligence on animals in our community. We all want to think that this is a sometimes thing, and I'm very sorry to say that it is a constant. It's a constant thing in our community.
About how many calls a year do you get?
About 1,200 a year.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I did not expect that number.
Yes.
I mean, we are in August. Now, this is only partially representative of the whole, of all the matters regarding cruelty, but we've had about 300 animals brought into the shelter as a result of cruelty investigations. It's a very high number of animals who must be turned over, relinquished, because they're being abused.
And a lot of times, like you said, someone does not realize what they are doing to that animal constitutes abuse.
I would say that very, very few cruelty cases are actually, I'd say, purposeful. Somebody said, I am going to harm this animal.
Right.
No.
Again, the situation got out of their control, like you said, poverty.
It's the result of the human dysfunction
right.
and the problems that the animals inherit because of what's going on with the human condition.
Right, right. Our time is getting to the end, but what I did want to talk about with you guys, too, is first off, you provide wonderful service to our community. You guys are great, top-notch. I'm so glad to have you on the program. But how can we, as the community, help you guys?
There are 3 ways that you can. One is come up and volunteer. The animals at the shelter, we do a lot of rehabilitation with the animals. animals. And it's from simple just spending time with the animals and socializing them to engaging in more sophisticated behavioral modification and training. If we see an animal that has a kind of a behavioral problem, but otherwise we get that fixed up, could be very adoptable, then we work long and hard with that animal. And volunteerism plays a very large part in that. If people would come to us and help us to walk the dogs, socialize the cats, they will be doing wonders, and far beyond what I think many people would assume they're doing.
Okay.
All right. The other thing is give money. We need the funds to operate this. A shelter and the shelter industry, it's a very expensive enterprise, and it absorbs a lot of money, and I think people would be surprised at how expensive it can be sometimes. The third thing, and the most important thing that you can do to help the Humane Society and the community as a whole is to love your animals, commit to your animals, and consider every day that you've made a lifelong commitment to those little critters, and that there is no compromise. You know, we do a lot of talking to children's groups.
Okay.
And the kids know. The kids do not have to be taught about the values and the commitments to the animals. They know. It's, I think as adults, we learn how to screw that up a little bit.
Like I said, you guys do a great job. Now, if our viewers, you have a website also. What is your website?
Yes. www.humanesocietyofnwpa.com.
Great website. Great website.
That has all the facts and everything, things we talked about today.
Okay, and they can contact. And there is also, viewers, if there is something that we haven't talked about and you do have any questions, feel free to give them a call or stop in. Like you said, anytime before the noon and 4 o'clock, you'll be sure to have somebody there. So, Joe, Alicia, thank you so much for joining us and getting the word out to the community. And again, thank you. You do a wonderful job. Great organization.
Thanks, Judy.
Viewers, thank you for tuning in to the Millcreek Government Channel. And until next time, have a wonderful day.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.